have you on Planetterrian Daily, episode 99, coming to you on June 23rd, 2026. Let's see what the latest research is telling us. A rare meteorite has revealed evidence of a massive lost world that orbited the young sun before a catastrophic collision. Experiments at the University of Cincinnati placed kissing bugs, fruit flies, mosquitoes, and spider beetles in controlled environments where only humidity varied across the day. The insects continued to show anticipatory behavior even after the humidity cue was removed, indicating an endogenous clock rather than a direct reflex. The response parallels known light and temperature entrainment pathways in both timing precision and persistence. The study appears in NPJ Biological Timing and Sleep. Further tests will determine whether humidity sensing interacts with other circadian inputs. Now, shifting to the earliest materials that form the solar system itself. Analysis of a rare meteorite has identified chemical signatures consistent with a moon-sized body that formed near the young sun. The object appears to have been shattered in a collision, scattering fragments that eventually reached Earth. Its composition differs markedly from the building blocks of Earth and Mars, suggesting greater diversity in early planetary materials. The finding challenges assumptions about uniform starting conditions across the inner solar system. Additional meteorite studies are planned to map the extent of this lost world's influence. Early planetary diversity sets the stage for later records preserved in Earth's own fossil ecosystems. A cave system has preserved fossils from an ecosystem that existed roughly 1 million years ago. The finds include remains that may represent a flying ancestor of the modern kakapo. Researchers link the assemblage to volcanic activity and climate shifts that reshaped habitats and drove extinctions well before human arrival. The material offers a direct window into pre-human biodiversity dynamics on the islands. Further excavation is expected to clarify how these environmental pressures selected for surviving lineages. From ancient ecosystems on Earth, moved to sustained microgravity experiments, probing fundamental physics today. NASA's upgraded Cold Atom Lab on the International Space Station is now producing ultra-cold quantum matter under sustained microgravity conditions. The experiments create states of matter that exhibit behaviors not observable on Earth. Scientists expect the platform to yield new insights into fundamental physics while testing components for future space-based sensors and clocks. The facility operates continuously, allowing repeated runs without the constraints of ground-based drop towers. Next steps include integrating additional laser systems to expand the range of accessible quantum regimes. Quantum behavior at scale leads naturally to new quantum tools operating at cellular timescales. A new biosensor platform uses quantum sensing principles to track rapid chemical reactions inside and between cells. The device can register events on timescales shorter than a millisecond that are invisible to conventional methods. Potential applications include monitoring disease processes such as muscular dystrophy progression or viral entry. Prototype tests have demonstrated sensitivity to low abundance molecular events. Development teams are now working to miniaturize the system for broader laboratory use. Researchers have also developed nanotube-based thermoelectric materials that convert low-grade waste heat into electricity. A Korean research team engineered these devices to exploit phonon scattering properties that maintain electrical conductivity while reducing thermal transport. Potential uses include capturing heat from data centers and electric vehicle batteries. Laboratory prototypes have demonstrated measurable power output under realistic temperature gradients. Scaling efforts are now focused on durability under continuous operation, from molecular scale sensing to practical questions of maintaining function across the lifespan. Current minimum protein recommendations may fall short for preserving muscle and function in older adults, according to a new synthesis of evidence. The authors link higher intake combined with regular exercise to better maintenance of strength and independence. Emphasis is placed on health span rather than athletic performance. The analysis draws on metabolic and functional data across multiple cohorts. Updated dietary guidance documents are expected to incorporate these considerations. A separate line of work examines how everyday events shape development in young adults. A University of Zurich longitudinal study of 1,442 participants found that positive developmental milestones, such as first jobs, friendships, and moving out, ranked highest in retrospective importance. Responses were collected at ages 15, 17, 20, and 24. Major negative events were mentioned less frequently as formative. The pattern held across the transition to adulthood. Researchers plan to examine whether these self-reported milestones correlate with later mental health measures. From individual physiological maintenance broadened to large-scale ecological pressures on food systems. UC Santa Barbara researchers completed the first comprehensive mapping of historical dune systems along the California coast. Approximately 60% of dunes present in 1850 have been lost to development, agriculture, and erosion. The assessment combines aerial imagery with field surveys. Remaining fragments are often fragmented and functionally impaired. Restoration priorities are being developed based on connectivity and sediment supply metrics. The first complete mapping of California's coastal dune loss shows that 60% of systems present in 1850 have disappeared. Remaining dunes are often isolated, reducing their capacity to buffer storms and support specialized species. Restoration efforts will need to address both sediment budgets and land use pressures simultaneously. One open question is whether targeted replanting can reestablish functional connectivity before further fragmentation occurs. Most people assume that light and temperature are the only reliable signals that set daily biological rhythms. In reality, many organisms also track humidity cycles as an independent time cue. Right now, as you listen, insects in the same room are using moisture gradients to anticipate dawn or dusk, even when lights remain constant. Experiments isolating humidity alone showed that fruit flies, mosquitoes, and other species maintain anticipatory activity patterns that persist after the humidity cycle is removed. A memorable detail is that these responses continue with the same precision as light-driven rhythms, demonstrating a fully endogenous clock rather than simple reflex behavior. The practical takeaway is to consider humidity stability when evaluating sleep environments or planning controlled experiments. Future studies may reveal whether humans also carry subtle humidity sensing pathways that have been overlooked. The honeybee parasite, Varroa destructor, reached Australia 4 years ago and has since required more than $100 million in management costs. Standard pesticide approaches are already showing reduced efficacy against local mite populations. Researchers are evaluating alternative strategies that combine genetic selection of resistant bees with non-chemical interventions. The mite's rapid adaptation highlights the limits of single-mode control in new environments. Ongoing monitoring programs aim to track resistance patterns across different regions. Low levels of nighttime illumination from coastal development reduce total sleep time and increase sleep fragmentation in coral reef fish. Exposed fish also displayed elevated aggression and shifted feeding times. The study, published in Current Biology, measured both behavioral and molecular markers linked to brain health. Effects appeared even at intensities well below daylight levels. Researchers are now assessing whether these changes affect reef ecosystem processes over longer timescales. Certain arboviruses reduce overall protein synthesis in their hosts as a strategy to avoid triggering strong immune clearance. This mechanism allows persistent infection without immediate lethality. The finding comes from molecular studies of dengue and related viruses expanding into temperate regions. Researchers note that the same tactic may contribute to the virus's ability to establish in new geographic areas. Follow-up work will test whether targeting this pathway could limit transmission. A white paper compiled by 135 researchers from 8 EU-funded projects warns that ongoing losses of wild and managed pollinators could undermine agricultural resilience. The report integrates data from ecology, economics, and policy analysis. It calls for coordinated habitat restoration and reduced pesticide exposure across member states. Without reversal, the authors project measurable impacts on crop yields within the next decade. National implementation plans are under discussion. Genicular artery embolization is being used to reduce chronic knee pain by limiting blood flow to inflamed joint tissues. Early patient series indicate that the outpatient procedure can provide multi-year symptom relief and delay or avoid total knee replacement. The approach targets specific arteries under imaging guidance without requiring open surgery. Clinicians report that participants have returned to activities such as cycling and gardening. Larger, controlled trials are underway to quantify duration of benefit and identify ideal candidates. AI tools are also being explored for handling routine academic tasks. A study from Lingnan University outlines how AI systems can manage automated grading while generating individualized feedback for students. The framework was tested within a liberal arts curriculum and focuses on freeing faculty time for higher-order mentoring. Implementation requires careful calibration to maintain academic standards across disciplines. The authors note that transparent algorithms and human oversight remain essential. Further pilots are scheduled to assess long-term effects on learning outcomes. That covers today's science and health news. Share this with someone who's curious about the latest research. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. See you next time. And before you go, this show is part of the Near and our Inner Work, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Fascinating Frontiers a listen. The most fascinating news from space and science. You can explore the whole lineup at neranetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.